What is the funniest real-life story you can tell? Reddit edition. High school junior year, first day of class. Teacher walks in, it's an older, wrinkly guy with a stash. A little weird looking. His shirt is only tucked in on one side. Everyone is just getting the wrong vibe from this guy. Like he's not all there in the head. He's got a manic look in his eyes. He's creepy. He starts going through attendance, not looking up the whole time. Then he gets to my name. Starts to say it, then stops. Looks up, scans the room, looks directly at me. "Ah, Mr. 12194. I'm glad you're here. How's your family? Is your little sister still playing the piano? Is that model ship still on your dresser? Is your room still blue?" I'm shocked, mortified. I can't find the words to respond. This creeper has just described my family and the fucking room I sleep in at night. Ah, of course it is. It's only been what? A week? Then he goes back to attendance. Panics were had that day. But anyway, the next day I find out the old crazy guy is my uncle's best friend. And they and my dad decided to pull a prank on me for my first day. The teacher wasn't so crazy looking the rest of the year. He shaved the pedo stash, which he grew specifically for the prank apparently, dressed better, stopped making his eye twitch, etc. I have to admit, it was a good prank, even if I was terrified of being murdered for a day or two. I had a friend whose roommate had a large German Shepherd dog. One day when she came home from work, she found him playing with the next-door neighbor's kid's pet bunny, dead. She panicked and gave the bunny a bath, blow-dried it, and placed it back in its cage, afraid to tell the neighbors that her dog killed it. A couple of hours later, they heard the neighbor's kid screaming hysterically. It turns out the bunny had died and they had buried it, and her dog had dug it up to play with it. After having sex with the fourth girl of my young life at the time, I decided to get an STD check. Not for any physical reasons, mostly for the emotional reassurance. Anyways, I called my neighbor across the street who is 3 years older than me, basically my big brother, and I told him that I made an appointment to get checked and I asked him what it entailed. He said it wasn't too bad. They did a sperm sample, swabbed his dick, checked his blood, etc., etc. So I felt pretty prepared going in there a few days later. On my way to the clinic, I was feeling pretty nervous to ejaculate in a cup, but I reassured myself that it was going to be fine. When I finally got there, an older lady called my name and handed me a clear cup and escorted me to the restroom and said, "Please go in here." I was picturing more of a comfortable room where I could do my private thing of choking my chicken, but I thought, fuck it. The bathroom will suffice. I remember looking around for some pornographic material because my neighbor said that they provide you with some, but there was nothing. I remember thinking, what the fuck? This place just expects us to use our imagination? Disappointed, I said, "Oh, well, not like I haven't used just my imagination before." So I began, masturbating over the sink. Anyways, I remember amazingly rubbing one out pretty fucking fast. Almost too fast. So I thought that I'd wait in there an additional 10 minutes because I didn't want her to think that I was some type of freak. After waiting in there for what felt like an eternity, I finally handed my semen-filled cup back to the old lady nurse who acted impatient and upset that I took so long. I began following her down the hallway. The woman set the cup on this desk table thingy, looked at it, and then picked it up again, and she jiggled the cup a little bit. She stopped. I held my breath as I looked at her face as I saw it turn from confusion to sheer horror. She turns to me and goes, Sir, we only needed your urine." I will never forget the feeling that I had at that very moment. My face got red, I felt immediately hot, my legs felt weak. I just wanted to get the fuck out of there. There have been so many embarrassing moments in my life, but luckily I can think pretty quickly on my feet and I can dig my way out of most uncomfortable situations. As for this moment, there was no fucking shovel in sight for me to dig myself out of. Nothing to say, nothing to do. I just stood there terrified. I just jizzed in a fucking urine sample cup. And now this poor elderly woman, who was probably months away from retirement, was now horrified and confused as she was gripping a hot cup of my potential babies. I'm guessing the clinic never trained her for situations like this. Even if she had made a joke to lighten the mood, it would have been better. It would have killed the tension in the room. Instead, she remained stoic. I felt awkward and scared. I felt like a monster. After going back to pee and a few tests later, I got the F out of there. After much reflection, though, I now think that she deserved it. Because honestly, yes, I did assume that she wanted a sperm sample, but the woman never specified what she wanted. Therefore, she assumed I knew too, and when both people are assuming, chances are that one of them is going to get a cup full of the other one's jizz. It's just the way it is. God, I still cringe just thinking about that day. Sometimes when I'm looking at myself in the mirror, I randomly think of that old woman's face as she realized that she's holding a cup filled with my hot semen soldiers, and I just bust out laughing and shake my head. Good times. My friends and I were at a bar, and a cover band was playing. The lead singer was being obnoxious. He was hitting on all the women in the audience in a very lewd manner, and he was being far too pretentious for being in a cover band. It was making everyone uncomfortable and annoyed. At one point during the show, he says, "I would like someone special to take the microphone and say a few words." He then lowered the microphone stand so that the microphone was right where his crotch was. I don't know how he had originally planned this segment to pan out, but before he could say anything, I yelled in a high-pitched voice, "I'm so tiny!" The singer was stunned. The audience laughed and cheered. Clearly flustered, he awkwardly raised the stand again and went into the next song. I don't think I'll ever have that good of a comeback again. I had just chugged a Pepsi, and my sister was lying down on her bed. With a glint of evil in my eyes, I leaned over, getting ready to let out the largest belch that was stirring in me. She looks up at me, and I get ready to release this horrid belch on her face. Instead of a belch, I threw up bile and Pepsi in her eye. She ran to the bathroom screaming, "You threw up in my eye, oh, it burns." I was laughing so hard I ended up throwing up on myself. That was 10 years ago, and we both can't tell this story without laughing about it. The night before, I drank probably 8-10 beers with friends and totally forgot that the next day my mom wanted me to take her out to a Dia de los Muertos festival happening downtown. I live in the Phoenix metro area, so I drive us out there. My girlfriend is along as well, and we walk around for a bit. We have some really good pulled pork sandwiches and some Jamba Juice. Yes, I know you'd expect Mexican food, but that's what we ate. Once we'd seen everything we wanted to see, we decided it was time to head home. On the way back to my car, though, my stomach started bothering me. You know that feeling you get when it's like, well, I know diarrhea is coming, but I think I can make it. It didn't feel that bad, so I figured I'd make it home, only a 15-minute drive. Well, 5 minutes into the drive, I realized that wasn't the case. Apparently, the mix of beer, pulled pork, and juice had become some sort of ultra-pressurized shit bomb that was ready to explode any moment. I started freaking out, trying to drive safely as possible while also locating a bathroom. But the part of town I was driving through didn't have much of anything, just closed down shops and nowhere to really stop and use the restroom. Then I saw it, a Circle K corner store on the horizon. I parked as fast as possible, legs shaking, and ran inside, ready to release the nuclear bomb that inhabited my bowels. I asked the clerk, "May I use your restroom?" To which he replied, "No, employees only." At this point, my mouth just sort of dropped open. I literally could not hold it any longer. "Please, this is an emergency," I pleaded. But he just stared at me, smug in the fact that I would not receive the key to my lower intestinal salvation. Pissed off and nigh unable to walk, I ran back out to my car, ready to drive down the street and hopefully find another place to shit. But my mom had gotten out and was looking at a freaking red box. I had no time, I had to go, and there was nothing else I could do about. So I did what any sensible person would do. I sprinted back around behind the store, dropped my pants, and shit against the back wall of the place. It was the most embarrassing yet relief-inducing moments I have ever experienced. And as I began to wipe my ass with some random receipts I had left in my wallet, I looked up to notice a group of 8-10-day laborers that had been standing on the street corner watched me do the whole thing. They were laughing hysterically, a few of them clapping and giving me thumbs up. When I made it back to my car for a hasty getaway, my mom had the gall to ask, "Do you still need to go?"